All right, let's dive in. Today, we're looking ahead to, well, 2025, specifically European brands in China's e-commerce market.
Sounds intriguing.
It is. We've got this report by Gary Wang. He's e-commerce manager at Jadebin Digital.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're experts in helping brands, really crack the Chinese market. Their website is www.jadebin.com, by the way.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
So the thing is, European brands, we know them for quality, right? But this report is saying that might not be enough in a few years.
Interesting. Why is that?
Well, China's market, it's evolving so fast. What worked before might not cut it anymore.
I see. So what's changing? What's the report saying?
Well, one of the big things is the rise of, get this, domestic Chinese brands.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, they've upped their game, especially in areas like tech and cosmetics. Their quality's getting up there, rivaling the international brands.
And I'm guessing often at a better price point, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the report suggests European brands can't just coast on reputation anymore.
Makes sense. They need to show what makes them special, their unique value, beyond just, being from Europe.
Right. So quality alone, not the golden ticket anymore. It makes you think, how can they stand out? The report mentions, storytelling as a strategy.
Oh, storytelling. That's interesting.
Yeah, crafting narratives around their heritage, their craftsmanship, that kind of thing.
So not just selling a product, but selling an experience. I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think honey, right? It's not just honey, it's Greek honey with a history and unique taste.
Ooh, I love that example, like selling the story behind it, the tradition.
That's it, tapping into those emotions and cultural things that resonate with Chinese consumers.
That's smart. Makes the brand more than just a thing you buy.
Right. And speaking of buying, there's this idea that Chinese consumers will pay any price, especially for luxury. But the report kind of debunks that.
Oh, really? I'd be curious to hear more about that. What's the report saying?
So while there are those super rich shoppers who love luxury, the report suggests more and more consumers, especially younger ones, are all about rational spending.
Rational spending, huh? So it's not just about showing off the brand name anymore.
Not really. It's about getting good value for their money.
I can see that. People everywhere are becoming more price conscious these days.
Absolutely. So slapping a luxury price tag on something isn't enough. You have to show why it's worth that price.
So how do European brands navigate that? What does the report suggest?
Well, one idea is tiered pricing, like having a range of products at different prices.
Oh, smart. So you can cater to both the luxury shopper and someone more budget-minded.
Exactly. Think of, say, a high-end fashion house doing a line of basics that are good quality but more affordable.
I like that. It lets more people experience the brand without, diluting the luxury image.
Exactly. And it ties into this global trend. It's called ping tea. Basically, people everywhere are looking for cheaper options, but they still want good quality.
Yeah, that makes total sense, especially with how the economy's been. People want to be smart with their money.
Right. So how does this impact European brands in China? What's the report saying?
Well, it's especially relevant to China right now with the post-pandemic recovery and everything. People are thinking more carefully about their purchases. And younger generations, they're all about practicality, sustainability.
Interesting. So maybe it's less about flashy luxury and more about things that last and are good for the environment.
Right, and European brands can tap into that, like highlighting eco-conscious designs, emphasizing durability, or offering those personalized touches that justify the higher price.
That's a good point. It's not just about being cheap. It's about offering real value that people are willing to pay for.
Exactly. And that's where European brands can really shine, I think. If they can tell the right story and connect with those values, they have a real chance to thrive. There's another interesting point in the report. It's about marketing. Apparently, just showing European models and aesthetics, that might not be enough anymore.
Oh, really? So the whole European chic thing, that's not cutting it.
It seems that way. The report talks about how brands need to reflect local culture and tastes in their marketing.
Ah, so it's like speaking a different visual language.
Exactly. If European brands want to really connect with Chinese consumers, they need to create visuals that actually resonate with their lives.
That makes sense. So what's the advice? How do they do that?
The report suggests using more localized photo and video shoots.
Like featuring Chinese models and settings?
Right, showcasing products in a way that feels familiar to the Chinese market. It's about bridging that cultural gap, making the brand feel authentic to them.
That's a good point. It's
Yeah.
not just about the product itself. It's about how you present it, how you make it relatable.
Mhm.
And what about platforms like Douyin China's version of TikTok. I imagine those are pretty important.
Absolutely. Short-form videos are huge in China, and Douyin is a major player. Gary, the author of the report, he recommends creating engaging, entertaining videos specifically for platforms like Douyin.
Makes sense. Got to capture that younger audience's attention. What about KOLs? Those key opinion leaders. They seem to be a big deal in China.
Oh, definitely. The report talks about them a lot. It recognizes how important KOL partnerships are, but it also cautions against relying on them too much.
Interesting. So it's not about ditching KOLs entirely, but having a more balanced approach.
Yeah, that's the idea. The report really emphasizes nurturing your own fan communities alongside those KOL partnerships.
So create spaces where consumers can interact directly with the brand and with each other.
Right, like exclusive WeChat groups, branded platforms, even online and offline events. It's all about building that sense of belonging among your customer
So
base.
it's about finding that balance, right?
Mm,
Leveraging the reach of KOLs, but also creating those authentic, direct relationships with consumers.
exactly. And the report suggests that this multifaceted approach, that could be a game changer for European brands. The idea is to create this whole ecosystem where KOLs amplify your message and direct engagement fosters long-term loyalty.
That's really interesting. So it's about more than just marketing. It's about community building, fostering that sense of connection.
Yeah.
And the report delves into specific strategies for 2025, right? What are some of the big takeaways there?
Oh, yeah. Gary outlines 4 key recommendations. First off, he stresses the need to adapt to, how the market's changing. Be agile, data-driven, adjust your strategy quickly.
That makes a lot of sense. The Chinese market is so dynamic, you got to be able to keep up.
Absolutely. Then the second recommendation is about combining traditional and newer e-commerce models. Keep that strong presence on platforms like Tmall and JD.com, but also embrace live streaming, social commerce, platforms like Douyin.
So it's not an either situation. It's about finding that synergy between different approaches.
Exactly. And building on what we were just talking about, the third recommendation focuses on nurturing that dedicated fan base. Go beyond just transactions. Build real connections through those exclusive communities, personalized experiences, events. Make people feel like they're part of something special.
Right. Create that brand community where consumers feel valued, like they connect with the brand's values and story.
Yes, exactly. And finally, the fourth recommendation is about building those long-term partnerships with KOLs. Not just one-off campaigns, but real relationships with influencers who genuinely align with the brand and can connect authentically with the audience.
So it's like a holistic approach, right?
Right.
Adaptability, multi-platform presence, community building, and authentic influencer marketing, all working together.
Yeah, and Gary believes that this approach, combined with a deep understanding of the Chinese consumer, that's what's going to be crucial for European brands to really thrive in China by 2025.
It all comes back to really knowing the Chinese market and the people, right? Not just assuming things will work the same way they do elsewhere.
Absolutely. The report really hammers home that point. European brands need to move away from generalizations, invest in truly understanding those cultural nuances, consumer behaviors, emerging trends, all the things that make the Chinese e-commerce landscape unique.
So if you had to distill the report's message into one key takeaway, what would it be?
I'd say it's this. Go beyond just offering good quality products. European brands need to show that they get the Chinese market, adapt their strategies, and focus on building genuine connections with consumers. That's how they'll stand out in this competitive environment.
It's thinking about all this, it really highlights how important it is to understand the Chinese market, especially how it's changing. And I think one thing that stood out from the report was that emphasis on building those long-term relationships with consumers. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think that's a huge shift. It's not just about making a sale anymore. It's about building that loyal community around your brand.
So it's like going from that transactional, like one-time purchase to really trying to build something more lasting.
Exactly. It's about engaging with people, understanding what they need, offering value beyond just the product itself.
So how do European brands actually do that in China? Like, what are some concrete ways to make those connections?
The report talks about this idea of exclusive communities. It's like, think private WeChat groups, special events, personalized experiences just for certain customers. It's about making them feel like they're part of something special.
So it's not just being a customer, it's like being in the club, right?
Exactly. You're part of this group that shares your values, your interests. It creates that sense of belonging that goes beyond just buying a product.
And that builds loyalty,
Right.
right? Not just because of the product itself, but because of what the brand represents.
Absolutely. It's like you're connected to the brand's story, its values, you've shared experiences, and that kind of loyalty, that's gold for a brand,
Hmm.
especially in a market as competitive as China.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how all these things tie together. So if you were giving advice to a European brand just starting out in China, what would be your top tip for success in 2025?
Hmm, tough one. But honestly, I'd say focus on building a strong local team. You need people on the ground who really get the Chinese market, the culture, the trends, all that.
It's like having those cultural translators, right?
Sure.
Making sure your message doesn't get lost in translation.
Exactly. They're your eyes and ears, your guides to navigating everything. Plus, they can help build relationships with key players, understand the rules and regulations, and keep your strategies fresh as things change.
Because let's face it, the Chinese market, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of place. It's complex and constantly evolving.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so exciting. It's a challenge, but the rewards can be huge if you do it right.
I think that's a great takeaway. So for our listeners who are really into this topic, what final thoughts would you leave them with?
I'd say approach the Chinese market with curiosity. Be respectful, be ready to learn. Don't be afraid to try new things because what works today might not work tomorrow. Flexibility is key. Embrace the differences, find local experts, and most importantly, focus on genuinely connecting with Chinese consumers. If you do that, you've got a real shot at success.
That's a fantastic message. Really emphasizes the importance of understanding, adapting, and building those genuine connections.
Exactly. It's not just about selling, it's about building relationships, telling stories, creating experiences that resonate with people. That's the future of brands, not just in China, but everywhere.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dives. It's been a fascinating journey exploring the future of European brands in China. We talked about storytelling, cultural relevance, building communities, and the importance of having a local team. So much to think about.
It has been a great discussion. It's clear the Chinese market is full of possibilities, and I'm really excited to see how things unfold over the next few years.
Me too. And a big thanks to our listeners for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and hopefully it sparks some new ideas for your own business or, just your understanding of the world.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.